ओम सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ओम सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। शांति मंत्र। ओम भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः। We can do them together. ओम भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्ठनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु। ओम शांति शांति शांति। ओम तत्सत। ओम नमः शिवाय। Okay, so let us first chant the 9th verse of the first section and then we'll chant the entire second section. All that is there in the PDF I sent you yesterday. So the 9th verse of the first section. Yah sarvajñah sarvavid.
Yes, sarvavidः.
Yasya jnanamayam tapaha.
Yasya jnanamayam tapah.
Tasmad etad brahma nama.
Tasmad etad brahmanama.
Rupam annam cha jayate.
Rupam annam cha jayate.
Iti prathama mundake pratama khandaha.
Iti prathama mundake prathama khandaha.
Okay, now it is the next one is prathama mundake dvitiya khanda. First chapter, second section. Tadetat satyam. Mantreshu karmani kavayoho.
Mantreshu karmani kavayoho.
Yanya pashyantani tretayam bahuda santatani.
Yanya pashyantani tretayam bahuda santatani.
It is apashyan. Yanya pashyantani tretayam bahuda santatani.
Yanya apashyantani tretayam bahuda santatani.
Tanyacharatha niyatam satyakamaha.
Tanyacharatha niyatam satyakamaha.
Eshaf pantha sukrutasya loke.
Eshava pantha sukrutasya loke.
Yada leelayate harchihi.
Yada leelayate harchihi.
Samithe havyavahane.
Samithe havyavahane.
Tadajya bhagavantarena ahuti pratipadayet.
Tadajya bhagavantarena ahuti pratipadayet.
Tadajya bhagavantarena ahuti pratipadayet.
Tadajya bhagavantarena ahuti pratipadayet.
YasyagniHotram adarsham apaurnamasam.
YasyagniHotram adarsham apaurnamasam.
YasyagniHotram adarsham apaurnamasam.
त्याग्निहोत्रम् अदर्शम् अपोर्णमासम्
अचातुर्यमास्यम् अनाग्रयणम् अतिथिवर्जितं च
अचातुर्मास्यम् अनाग्रयणम् तिथि
अचातुर्यमास्यम् अनाग्रयणम् अतिथिवर्जितं च अहुतम् अवैश्वदेवम् अविधिनाहुतम्
देवम् अविधिनाहुतम्
अहुतम् अवैश्वदेवम् अविधिनाहुतम्
अवैश्वदेवम् अविधिनाहुतम्
आसप्तमांस्तस्य लोकान् हिनस्ति
लोकान् हिनस्ति
काली कराली च मनोजवा च
काली कराली च मनोजवा च
सुलोहिता या च सुधूम्रवर्णा
सुलोहिता च सुधूम्रवर्णा
पुलिंगिनी विश्वरूची च देवी
पुलिंगिनी विश्वरूची च देवी
लेलायमाना इति सप्तजिह्वाः
लेलायमाना इति सप्तजिह्वाः
एतेषु यश्चरते भ्राजमानेषु
एतेषु यश्चरते भ्राजमानेषु
यथा कालं चाहुतयो ह्याददायन्
यथा कालं चाहुतयो ह्याददायन्
तं नयन्त्येताः सूर्यस्य रश्मयः
रश्मयो
यत्र देवानां पतिरेकोऽधिवासः
यत्र देवानां पतिरेकोऽधिवासः
ये हे हीति तमाहुतयः सुवर्चसः
ये हीति तमाहुतयः सुवर्चसः
सूर्यस्य रश्मिभिर्यजमानं वहन्ति
सूर्यस्य रश्मिर्यजमानं वहन्ति
प्रियां वाचम् अभिवदन्तयोर्च्यन्त्ययः
प्रियां वाचम् अभिवदन्त्योर्चयन्त्यः
प्रियां वाचम् अभिवदन्तयो अर्चन्त्यः
प्रियां वाचम् अभिवदन्त्योर्चयन्त्यः
अर्चन्त्यः. So because of the avagraha, the is not be pronounced. So priyam vacham abhivadantayorcyantyah.
प्रियां वाचम् अभिवदन्त्योर्चयन्त्यः
एषवः पुण्यः सुकृतो ब्रह्मलोकः
एषवः पुण्यः सुकृतो ब्रह्मलोकः
प्लवाह्येते अधृढा यज्ञरूपाः
प्लवाह्येते अधृढा यज्ञरूपाः
अष्टादशोक्तम् अवरं येषु कर्म
अष्टादशोक्तमवरं येषु कर्म
अष्टादशोक्तम् अवरं येषु कर्म
अष्टादशोक्तम् अवरं येषु कर्म
एतत् श्रेयो येऽभिनन्दन्ति मूढाः
एतत् श्रेयो यो येऽभिनन्दन्ति मूढाः
जरा मृत्युं ते पुनरेवापियन्ति
जरा मृत्युं ते पुनरेवापियन्ति
अविद्यायाम् अन्तरे वर्तमानाः
अविद्यायाम् अन्तरे वर्तमानाः
अविद्यायाम् अन्तरे वर्तमानाः
अविद्यायाम् अन्तरे वर्तमानाः
वयं धीराः पण्डितं मन्यमानाः
वयं धीराः पण्डितं मन्यमानाः
जगन्यमानाः पर्यन्ति मूढाः
जघन्यमानाः पर्यन्ति मूढाः
अन्धेनैव नियमाना यथान्धाः
अन्धेनैव नियमाना यथान्धाः
अविद्यायां बहुधा वर्तमानाः
अविद्यायां बहुधा वर्तमानाः
वयं कृतार्था इत्यभिमन्यन्ति बालाः
वयं कृतार्था इत्यभिमन्यन्ति बालाः
यत्कर्मिणो न प्रवेदयन्ति रागात्
यत् कर्मिणो न प्रवेदयन्ति रागात्
तेनातुराः क्षीणलोकाश्च्यवन्ते
तेनातुराः क्षीणलोकाश्चयन्ते.
The visarga is to be pronounced fully. Why?
Ksha followed by
Followed
ksha.
by ksha. So tenaturaha kshinalokaश्च्यवन्ते.
तेनातुराः क्षीणलोकाश्चयन्ते.
इष्टापूर्तं मन्यमाना वरिष्ठम्
इष्टापूर्तं मन्यमाना वरिष्ठम्
नान्यच्छ्रेयो वेदयन्ते प्रमूढाः
नान्यच्छ्रेयो वेदयन्ते प्रमूढाः
नाकस्य पृष्ठे ते सुकृतेऽनुभूत्वा
नाकस्य पृष्ठे ते सुकृतेऽनुभूत्वा
इमं लोकं हीनतरं वा विशन्ति
इमं लोकं हीनतरं वा विशन्ति
तपश्रद्धे ये ह्युपवसन्त्यरण्ये
तपश्रद्धे ये ह्युपवसन्त्यरण्ये
तपश्रद्धे ये ह्युपवसन्त्यरण्ये
तपश्रद्धे ये ह्युपवसन्त्यरण्ये
शान्ता विद्वांसो भैक्षचर्यां चरन्तः
शान्ता विद्वांसो भैक्षचर्यां चरन्तः
सूर्यद्वारेण ते विरजाः प्रयायन्ति
सूर्यद्वारेण ते विरजाः प्रयान्ति
यत्रामृतः स पुरुषो ह्यव्ययात्मा
यत्रामृतः स पुरुषो ह्यव्ययात्मा
परीक्ष्य लोकान् कर्मचितान् ब्राह्मणः
परीक्ष्य लोकान् कर्मचितान् ब्राह्मणः
निर्वेदम् आयान् नास्त्य कृतकृतेन
निर्वेदम् आयान् नास्त्य कृतकृतेन.
So there is a double N over there. Nirvedam ayan nastya kritakritena.
निर्वेदम् आयान्नास्त्य कृतः कृतेन.
So if you see the English part of it, the transliteration, that ayan, it becomes ayat. So don't get confused. It is nirvedam ayat only, but because of sandhi rules, when the ta combines with the na, both become na. That's why it's nirvedam ayan nasta krita kritena. In chanting, we will take it as nirvedam ayan nasta krita kritena. In sandhi breakup, nirvedam ayat nasta krita kritena. तद विज्ञानार्थम स गुरुमेवाभिगच्छेत्.
तद् विज्ञानार्थं स गुरुमेवाभिगच्छेत्.
समीत पाणिश्रोत्रियं ब्रह्मनिष्ठम्.
समीत पाणिश्रोत्रियं ब्रह्मनिष्ठम्.
तस्मै स विद्वान् उपसन्नाय सम्यक्.
तस्मै स विद्वान् उपसन्नाय सम्यक्.
प्रशान्त चित्ताय शमान्विताय.
प्रशान्त चित्ताय शमान्विताय.
येनाक्षरं पुरुषं वेद सत्यम्.
येनाक्षरं पुरुषं वेद सत्यम्.
उवाच तां तत्त्वतो ब्रह्मविद्याम्.
प्रोवाच तां तत्त्वतो ब्रह्मविद्याम्.
इति प्रथम मुण्डके द्वितीय खण्डः.
इति प्रथममुण्डके द्वितीयखण्डः.
Okay, so all many new words which you haven't come across before. So it will take some time to get them under your tongue. But what I would suggest is that since we have already done the first section and now we are doing second section, in your daily Parayanam, you should include both the sections. So at least two sections, if you can do at least once or maybe 3 times a week or twice or thrice a week, it'll become much more familiar. I can send you the what we call chanting by somebody else, by my own guru. I'll send that to you on the thing. Based on that, you can do the chant. Okay. Right. So now we go back to the 9th verse, the last mantra of the first section. And that says, Yaha Sarvajnaha Sarvavid Yasya Jnanamayam Tapaha Tasmat Etad Brahmanama Rupam Annam Chajayate. I'll just mute you all. So Sarvavid is Sarvavit only. So you look at the words Yaha, that person, Sarvajnaha, all knowing, Sarvavit, also all knowing. So we'll get to the distinction between those two. Then Yasya Jnanamayam Tapaha, whose austerity, whose tapaha was Jnanamayam. Jnanamayam was in the form of knowledge. Tasmat, from that, Etad Brahma Nama Rupam Annam Chajayate. From that, Etad, Tasmat is from, Etad is all these, which are what? Brahma, Nama, names, Rupam, forms, Annam, food, Jayate, is born. So from that Brahman, who is both Sarvavit and Sarvajnaha, from that Brahman, whose austerity, whose tapaha was in the form of knowledge alone, from that Brahman, all these are born. So this Brahman here, Tasmat Etad Brahmanama, you have to, rearrange those words a bit. Tasmat Brahma, from that Brahman, Etad Nama Rupa Annam Cha Jayate. All these names and forms are born. So Yaha Sarvajnaha Sarvavit. Vit. Sarvavit is what? One who knows everything. Sarvajna is what? One who knows everything. So there must be a difference, right? So here, remember that in the 5th mantra, Shruti introduced Brahman as what? As Aksharam. That which cannot be destroyed, right? And here it says Yaha. There is a small grammar point over here, which, I mean, those of you who are familiar with grammar, it is fine. Those of you who are not, can safely ignore it. Aksharam is what gender? Anybody?
Neutral.
Aksharam is neutral gender.
Napunsak.
Napusilang. And Yaha is what gender?
Male, he.
Yaha is pulling masculine gender. Okay. So why is it being in two different gender being introduced over here? He's saying that from the point of view of Shrishti, that same Brahman is called Ishvara. And then taken as masculine over here. Now, he uses the word Sarvam. Sarva Yajna, Sarvajnaha and Sarvavida. The word Sarvam is used over here. Sarvam has a twofold definition. One definition is Sarvam Janati iti Sarvayajnaha. Sarvajnaha. So the one who knows everything is Sarvajna. That is, Sarvajna is through. What do you mean by knowing everything? It's like you say that I know all the ornaments because I know the gold. And therefore the knowledge through Paravidya is what? That the Karanam, the cause, is inherent, is all pervading, is the Upadana Karanam for all products. Is that statement clear? Any Karanam is the Upadana Karanam for all the possible products, all the possible Karya. I hope that statement is clear. Any doubts on that? You understand what it means to say that any cause has to necessarily be the probably on the class better. Yeah, so any Karanam has to necessarily be the material cause of the products. And the knowledge through that is called Sarvajnaha. So Sarvam Janati means that knowledge of all the products which is through Paravidya alone. Okay. What is then Sarvavit? There is another definition. Sarvam Veti. It is Sarvavit. So Veti here has to be taken as through Aparavidya. So the knowledge of Sarvajna is the knowledge through Paravidya. The knowledge of Sarvavit is through Aparavidya. Now the point is, can a Jnani, which adjective will you apply to the Jnani? Sarvajna or Sarvavit?
Sarvagnya.
I can't hear you.
Sarvagnya.
Sarvajna. Why?
Because he knows that one thing through which one can know everything else. He knows the Upadana Karanam.
Okay. Now can we apply Sarvavit to him?
He doesn't necessarily know all the products. He doesn't necessarily know everything, all the Nama Rupa there is to know. So perhaps not, unless he does know everything.
No, remember it's Aparavidya. Aparavidya is limitless, because you know that, for example, because you know that a necklace is gold only, that is Sarvajna part of it.
Yes.
Because of that knowledge, it is not possible for you to make the necklace. That knowledge is now not sufficient for you to know how to form that necklace, how to make that necklace. For that, you need to know specific jnanam, how a necklace is made, what is the process, how you melt it, what is the mold, what is the mixed, everything you need to know, right? That is called Sarvavit. Therefore, Sarvajna is fine, Jnani Sarvajna, but because the knowledge of a human being is necessarily limited because of his mind, which is limited. Therefore, the Jnani can never be Sarvavit. He can only be Sarvajna. And Ishvara is both Sarvajna and Sarvavit. Why do we say that?
Because being the well, he knows the one thing and he knows all the nama rupa because they come from him itself.
Everything in the world is created by Ishvara alone. Therefore, he is necessarily Sarvavit also. And Sarvagnya by definition is. So Sarvagnya can be taken as before creation for Ishvara. Sarvavita and Sarvagnya is taken as after creation. Unless he is Sarvavit, the creation is not possible. So Sarvagnya is the understanding Aham Brahma Asmi. Everything else is Mithya. But even though we as Jnanis can be Sarvagnya, we cannot be Sarvavit. I am saying cannot be because no human being, because of the limitation of his upadhi, can know everything about everything. Sarvavit is only where it is possible, where you have the knowledge required for creating that particular object. So you can be Sarvavit for particular purposes. If you are a car engineer, you can be a Sarvavit for the purpose of creation of the car. If you are, let us say, a computer engineer, you can be a Sarvavit for the creation of the computer. But you cannot be Sarvavit for all creation. That is possible only for Ishvara. That is because his upadhi is all encompassing. Maya is the upadhi because of Maya only, which includes all possible minds, right? All the buddhi and all the manas are included in Sukshma Shariram, in the Samashti Sukshma Shariram, which is Maya. And therefore, only for Ishvara it is possible to be Sarvagya and Sarvavit. Having said that, we say Yasya Jnanamayam Tapaha. His tapas was in the form of Jnanam, knowledge alone. So remember, when we say you will find several mantras where we say that Ishvara visualized, or Ishvara said that let there be many, and then he had Sankalpa, or then he had Tapaha. All those things we say. Remember, all that is in the form of knowledge alone. So this Jnanamayam has to be taken as a visualization of the world before creating. And that, to understand that, any one of us who creates anything, what do you do before you, let us say, build a building? There is a blueprint, right? There is a sketch. What room goes where? What is the depth of the foundation? How the walls will be made? Where the windows are going to be? Where all the electric switches are going to be? All this is there. That is the blueprint. That is the visualization. So Jnanamayam here, Jnanamayam Sankalpaha or Jnanamayam Tapaha is that mental visualization where Ishvara visualizes the creation as it is going to be. Okay. And Shankara clarifies here that this tapaha, he says, is vritti jnanam, not swarupa jnanam. Again, two very important words, which we have discussed many times before. What is the difference between swarupa jnanam and vritti jnanam?
Vritti is the thought of that particular object, and Swarupa is once it is in place, then you can see it or you can cognize it.
Yes, Swarupa Jnanam is the awareness of yourself. That is the consciousness principle itself is the Swarupa Jnanam. The RC you can call it is Swarupa Jnanam. The knowledge that you are consciousness itself. The knowledge that you are the OC is the Swarupa Jnanam. That awareness which you have. Vritti Jnanam is the thought. The thought is always in the form of the object of thought. Like if you have, let us say, a pot vritti, then Shastra says that that pot vritti is recognized. How? Because of that Swarupa vritti. And that recognition of the pot vritti is called Swarupa Jnanam. The entire process is possible only because of your being conscious or your being aware. So Shankara clarifies this particular tapas is not just Swarupa Jnanam, it is Vritti Jnanam also. It's in the form of the thought because the visualization of the world has to be there, of the different planets, where they're going to be, where the sun is going to be, where the galaxies are going to be, all that has to be there. That is Vritti Jnanam. And so he says, this all-knowing Ishvara, the thoughts are connected with everything in the universe. And that is why Sarvagnya, he knows everything. Okay. Now this Vritti takes place where? It takes place in the mind of Ishvara. What is the mind of Ishvara called? Maya. And because this Maya is all-pervading, because it necessarily has all possible knowledge, and therefore Sarvavid status, he can visualize the world as it should be. And this visualization is called tapas. And the last section, or rather in this section itself, we refer to it as what? Tapasa chiyate. That expansion which you said was this tapas. Jnanamaya tapas in the form of jnanam alone. Just like the goldsmith visualizes the full form of the bangle, makes a sketch of it before he makes it. This tapas, therefore, is nothing else but jnanam alone. And Shankara clarifies again, there is no effort involved in this tapas, which is of Ishvara, unlike the Jiva's tapas, which requires physical effort, because Ishvara is all-knowing, and therefore tapas is not in the form of effort, it is in the form of knowledge alone. Okay. Then Tasmat. Tasmat is what? From that Ishvara. Remember the mantra uses Brahma. So how should we rename that Brahma? Saguna Brahman. Saguna Brahman is Maya Sahita Brahman, Ishvara. From that Ishvara, the first step is given. Hiranyagarbha, this is Shankara's, what they call, commentary. He says, from that Ishvara, Hiranyagarbha is born. That all-knowing Brahma, Sarvajnata Brahma, he says. That all-knowing Brahma, called Hiranyagarbha, is born. And therefore, Hiranyagarbha is a product, is a karyam, not Karanam Brahman. Now, what is Karanam Brahman over here? Ishvara. Another name is Lord Brahmaji. So, Karanam Brahman, the Brahman which is the cause. So, here onwards, Shankara very often uses these two words, Karanam Brahman and Karya Brahman. Karanam is the cause and Karyam is the creator or the created or the product. Therefore, in the first step, when you are saying Karanam Brahma, it is Lord Brahmaji, Ishvara himself. And when you are saying Karyam Brahma, it is Hiranyagarbha, the firstborn. Remember, Hiranyagarbha is taken as firstborn sometimes.
Acharya, both are different.
Brahman,
Brahma.
Lord Brahmaji is taken very often as Ishvara himself.
So, because sorry, I was always under the impression that Hiranyagarbha and Brahmaji are one and the same.
Yes, so as I said, we have to learn.
To learn to drop certain notions, I know. So I have to figure out what to drop now.
Yeah, so Ishvara is here taking the form of Lord Brahmaji, Karanam Brahma. Hiranyagarbha is Karyam. Okay, there is no harm in saying Ishvara without Lord Brahmaji and figuring out Hiranyagarbha as Lord Brahma.
But this is not the same.
Confused, that is all. There are two things.
This is not the same as Antaryami, right?
This is not the same as Antaryami.
So Antaryami is separate. Then coming down from Antaryami, we first come to Brahmaji.
Yes.
Okay.
So wherever steps are involved, it's always contextual.
Right.
In this context, if you are getting confused, you can simply say that Ishvara is the first, Hiranyagarbha and Lord Brahmaji are the same, and that is Karanam Brahman. What we should remember is what is Karanam Brahman and what is Karya Brahman. The one which gives the rise to the next one is Karanam. The one which is given rise to is Karya. Okay, so
Acharya, can you explain it again? So which is the Karanam Brahma and which is the
don't
Karya
get stuck
Brahma?
with, there is a Karanam Brahma, there is a Karyam Brahma. You
So
can take
Sagun
Karyam
Brahman
Brahma as Hiranyagarbha over here. Karanam Brahma, you take at Ishvara, that is the best. Because Lord Brahmaji, we very often take as Hiranyagarbha.
Yes.
But Lord Brahmaji can also be taken as Karanam Brahman. Karanam Brahman is Saguna Brahman or Nirguna Brahman?
Saguna Brahman.
Is there any harm in taking Karanam Brahman as Lord Brahmaji?
Because it gets confusing because we have always been saying Karanam and Brahmaji is Hiranyagarbha. Brahmaji and Sagun Brahman, they are
Brahmaji has got form?
No.
No, I'm asking. Lord Brahmaji has got form or not?
Satu.
Lord Brahmaji is
It's Satu.
Saguna or Nirguna?
It is Saguna.
Then where is the confusion?
Umacharya,
Yeah.
when we say Lord Brahmaji as firstborn,
Yeah.
so then it should be Karya Brahman, no? Brahma.
Karanam
Brahma.
Brahman.
No, when it is firstborn, kind of.
Yeah, okay. See, that's why I'm saying everything relative. If you are saying that from Ishvara, Lord Brahmaji is born, then it is Karyam Brahma. But from
Yes.
Brahmaji, when Hiranyagarbha is born, which is Karanam, which is Karyam.
Yeah, then yes, of course.
That is why don't hold on to these ideas that Brahmaji is Karanam, this is Karyam. It's all relative. Depending upon which two you are taking, one will be the Karanam, one will be the Karyam.
So Acharya, the Antaryami being Karanam, are we kind of just loosely using terms now and not attaching ourselves to the terms themselves?
Yeah, Antaryami is Karanam Brahman.
Okay.
Then Hiranyagarbha is Karyam Brahman.
Okay.
Okay. You can use say Antaryami is Ishvara and you
Yeah.
can say Hiranyagarbha is Lord Brahmaji. Just make sure that the Karanam, Karyam, that relationship doesn't get confused. Which is Karanam, which is Karyam. Okay, you guys are confused.
Nirguna Brahman is
Just the
Sagun
lucidity
Brahman.
of the, I think it's just the lucidity, the free flowingness of the or the interchangeability of some names. So
That
the
is
names
going
are
to
not-
be because
Yeah, yeah.
Shankaracharya necessarily uses Saguna and Nirguna also interchangeably.
Yes, yes.
To tell you that there is really no Saguna apart from Nirguna.
You're right.
Remember, we
So-
have left behind Bhagavad Gita, okay?
Yeah.
So now we are in Upanishad. You have to learn to open out your mind to the fact there is only one thing. You put it in different forms and you call it different names.
So I think what is probably, I mean, what we have to take away is the process and not get stuck with the
Yes,
name.
you take the process, so there is a Karanam, and then Karanam gives rise to a Karya.
Right.
So
And the names are only there for, I think, for
names are there
for
because
us to be able
some
to-
names have to be there,
yeah.
you know. But always take the context, which is Karanam, which is Karya. Everybody clear on that? Don't get stuck on Lord Brahmaji. Hiranyagarbha is a very specific name. That doesn't change. What is Hiranyagarbha?
Samashti.
Sukshma Sharira.
Samashti
Sukshma Sharira.
Sukshma Sharira. What is the Karanam for Samashti Sukshma Shariram?
Samashti Karana Sharira.
Samashti Karana Shariram. What is Samashti Karana Shariram called?
Antaryami.
Antaryam. Another name for Antaryami is Ishvara.
Ishvara.
Okay. So Ishvara can be Samashti Karana Shariram. And if you are taking Hiranyagarbha as the Karyam, you can say Lord Brahmaji is Karyam also. I'm still confused. Okay, we'll cancel the
No, I think
the application of Lord Brahmaji to
Acharya,
Antaryami.
actually, no, I think it actually is very clear when you say Karyam Brahma and Karanam Brahma. I think
is the-
everything is
That is the best way. Karanam Brahma, Karyam Brahma. From Tattva point of view, Antaryami is Karanam Brahma and Hiranyagarbha is Karyam Brahma. Okay, that is the first set. Then Nama Jayate. Names are born. And Shankara says, he gives examples. Names like Shuklam, white, Neelam, blue, etc. He also says other things are born. What are they born? Annam. Annam is grains. Vrihi. Vrihi can mean rice or barley, etc. So from here he says that he is giving the full thing. There is a Ishvara, Antaryami, there is a Hiranyagarbha. There's a whole process which he has skipped over here. And he says from that process, you have various things like blue colors, white colors, grains, barley, annam, everything is born. Now here, annam has to be carefully understood. Annam here is what?
Anything that can be consumed by the senses.
Anything that can be consumed. So, adhyate iti annam. That which is eaten is annam. Why are we pointing out here that you have to be careful about the meaning of annam? Look at the previous sloka. Sloka number 8.
Objects which are consumed by the sense organs.
No, sloka number 8.
Annat prano
Annat pranaha. What was that annam?
There it was the potential name and form.
It was karana avastha.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's why I'm saying don't get confused. Two words are used in two succeeding mantras. One word is talking about the karana avastha itself, the antaryami part itself. The other one is talking about one of the very minor products, food. And therefore the meanings are always contextual. This is why I'm saying you must learn to look at the context always. Don't take the word dictionary meaning. You will usually confuse yourself. So take the context and then the discussion and then understand. The context earlier was annat pranaha manaha satyam. So it was karanavastha. Here it is annam eaten. So he says eaten, this food is born, and jayate. Everything else is also born. Etad Brahman. Brahman is here is Hiranyagarbha, Sukshma, Tamashti Sukshma Shariram. Okay, and from here everything else evolves. Therefore, the name, Rupam is born, individual products are born. What is born exactly? This will be all elaborated in the second chapter. So remember, the first chapter is a sort of a opening summary. Okay, it's a synopsis of what is going to come. And hereafter, Paravidya and Aparavidya will be elaborated upon. Okay, any questions? The first section is over. It was a summary basically. Okay, now let us look at the second section. So in the first section, we saw that in the introductory sections, we saw that the Mundaka Upanishad has how many chapters? Somebody's house, some work is going on. Can you please mute your phone? Okay, those who want to say something can say. How many chapters are there in Mundaka Upanishad? 3. Each chapter is called what?
Mundaka.
Mundaka.
Mundaka. Each chapter has how many sections?
2 sections.
What is each section called?
Khanda.
Okay, so 3 chapters, 2 Mundaka, 2 khandas each, and therefore 6 khandas.
6 khandas.
So in the first chapter, what happened? The student and the teacher have been introduced. And do you remember who the student was and who the teacher is?
Shaunaka.
Is the student.
Angira is the guru.
Guru is?
Angira.
Angiras.
Angira.
Okay, what was the summation of what we did? Aparavidya is Veda Purva. Paravidya is Veda Anta. And we had some more discussions where we said that actual Paravidya is something which is in the form of the actual thought. Okay. Now that was again the introduction. And in the second section now, Paravidya and Aparavidya are expanded upon. The first 11 mantras of this second khanda, second section, they deal with Aparavidya. And in the 12th and 13th mantras, Angiras talks about the transition of the student from Aparavidya to Paravidya. The transfer of your attitudes from Karma Kanda to Jnana Kanda. So the entire Karma Kanda is condensed into 11 mantras. And Karmakanda, as you know, is the ritualistic portion of the Vedas. And we talk about, in the Veda, we talk about varieties of rituals, which gives you varieties of benefits. So performance of the various mantras, the, performance is not the right word, the chanting of the mantras in a yajna, they involve usually 3 Vedas. And what are they? The mantras are provided in Rig Veda. So this is your, what do the 3 Vedas, Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, and Sama Veda, what do they signify? Rig Veda provides the mantras. Yajur Veda gives the method of performing the rituals. And Sama Veda is, of course, the same Rig Veda mantras, but those mantras which are amenable to singing in actual singing with meter. So Rig Veda is the mantras, Yajur Veda is the rituals, Sama Veda is the singing of the Rig Vedas. So the performance of the rituals, what do they do? Any Vaidika karma, as it is called. All the rituals are what? Vaidika karma, Vedic action. They give 2 results, Drishta, Adrishta, visible and invisible. And you can also take that as what you call Drishta results. Visible results are here itself in this world. So Iha Phalam. And Adrishta results are in the next world, which was given a specific name in Tattvoda. What is that?
Mutre.
Sorry?
Iha Mutre.
Yeah, you are getting the right word. Only the breakup is wrong.
Amutra.
Iha Amutra. Okay, so Iha means here, Amutra means in the next world. So Drishta Phalam is here, Amutra, Adrishta Phalam is Amutra, the next one. So needless to say, all the rituals, they need to be done correctly. And Shastram says that if it is not done correctly, even though, you may say that Papam may not be attracted because you've actually done a ritual, but no beneficial result can be expected if done incorrectly. And even where results are expected, we should always remember that Vaidika karma done correctly also will give you results, will give you papam and punyam. But the purpose of the Veda, the Purva Veda, in giving you tons of various rituals, which gives you various kinds of phalam, the purpose is completely different. The purpose is not just to provide you with the phalam. What is the purpose of all the karma that you do in Vaidika karma?
Chitta Shuddhi.
Chitta Shuddhi. And how will you get that?
Without having attachment to karma.
Doing it as a Ishvara Arpana Bhava.
Ishvara.
Anybody?
By accumulating punyam through those rituals.
There's one very important quality for a seeker. It should lead you to that. Chitta Shuddhi is okay. Chitta Shuddhi can be defined by the use of another word also. What is that?
Niskam karma.
Sadhan Chatushta Sampan.
See, you look at the rituals. The rituals we say, they will give you results.
Mumukshutvam, Acharya.
The results we say will be temporary. And therefore, the idea of the Veda is that you keep on doing karma again and again and again, and sooner or later you will realize that every result is finite only. Which should lead you to what?
Vairagyam.
Vairagya. Okay. So the ultimate aim of all Purva Veda is to lead a person to Vairagya. Okay, Vairagyam should not be for the karma. Okay, Vairagyam is for the karma phalam. Vairagyam for the karma is called something else. What is that? Vairagyam for karma is alasya, laziness. So there are The ultimate result is that of all karma should be that you develop a dispassion for the results of the karma. That dispassion is mental maturity. That dispassion is Chitta Shuddhi. Vairagyam is just another name for Chitta Shuddhi. Okay, if you look at the Purva Veda itself, there are different groups of rituals. Rituals can be classified into very many groups. So one group of rituals is meant for the fulfillment of all my worldly desires, like my personal health and the health of my family members, progress in my profession. You know, my daughter and son should get happily married. I should have money. I should have house. All this is personal desires. These are called kamya karma. Karma meant for, kama is desire, and therefore kamya karma. Karma born out of desires. Also called, another very important word, sakama karma. That is karma accompanied by kama. Sa-kama. The prefix sa is meant to show that it is together. So sakama karma, karma accompanied by desires, is sakama karmani. And this is for sukha praptihi, punya prapti, to get, you know, happiness or ananda or to get punya. All this is under one group, sakama karmani, fulfillment of worldly desires.
Raviji,
Haji.
can I ask a question about this Vaidika
Yes.
karma related to this Kamya
Yeah.
rituals? So suppose somebody does some yajna, say to get a kingdom,
Mhm.
and they've done it correctly. Let's forget about the Chitta Shuddhi part, and they have done it all accurately and everything.
Yeah.
And then say 1 or 2 years from now, they get a kingdom.
Mhm.
So the punyam of that yajna that was done manifested as this kingdom that they got.
Correct.
That correct? Or is there like the result comes, the worldly result, whatever it is, like a kingdom or something, and then there is some separate adrishta punyam that is still there for swarga or something? Or
Yes, yes. Every karma, if done with the right attitude, has two results, drishta, adrishta. The drishta one you can see over here, but if Ishvara has been there in the karma and you have done it according to Vedic rules and regulations, then adrishta karma is definitely there, which is the punya. And that is why we said all these people who got their kingdoms and all this, they also went to heaven. So going to heaven is not part of drishta. Going to heaven is part of adrishta punya.
I always thought that this adrishta would manifest as the result of whatever they got.
No, only
now when we
drishta
do
manifests as result. Adrishta has only relevance in the amutra, in the next life, post death of the body.
Can it be taken that adrishta has relevance in the future, and it can be in the future of this life also?
No, it is taken as amutra, which means the next life. Drishta,
But-
if it is manifested here, then it is drishta only, right? It is manifested in the future, but it's manifested in this life. So you've seen it. That is the argument.
I mean,
Acharya,
there are many actions that manifest within this life itself.
That is all.
Isn't
drishta.
that a manifestation of that? I mean, it was temporarily adrishta, and then that adrishta is
No,
what
no,
became
adrishta,
drishta. right?
adrishta. Adrishta is taken for other worlds. So that is why you need a faith in the scriptures to say that yes, I can go to Swarga also.
Acharya, the amutra, can it mean Swarga and a later life on Prithvi? Future prarabdha, as in, future
Usually we say no. Usually the adrishta comes into punyam. And of course, you can say that because of the punyam you have a better life. That also can be an interpretation. So other lokas can include bhuloka. It's not that it is only
right.
Vargaloka.
But it is not relevant to us anyway.
It is not relevant to us anyway. But the point is, it's useful thing that if you are going to have the same result in other life, you say any of the lokas, right? So why not Bhuloka? Can be Bhuloka also. Because if you say punyam will not affect your next birth, then
Yeah.
you're destroying the very basis of
Exactly, the whole thing
rebirth
falls
theory.
apart.
Yeah.
But that is my question, that what we call as adrishta eventually manifests as some drishta experience.
In this world, yes. In this world, yes. And in the next world also it is drishta, right? You are a jiva there also. It is adrishta because it is not seen in this life. That's all.
But if it is seen in this life, then that
Then it's
I
drishta.
also question about the yajna and the kingdom, because that punyam is seen in this very life
So
itself.
that is drishta, very much drishta phalam.
Acharya, there's something that you had explained to us about this earlier on in another previous class sometime. You'd explained it as whatever we get in this lifetime, that is our prarabdha, and the drishta phalam of any drishta karma, that is also now. Anything which is which we have not worked towards, which is unexpected, or any good situation, bad situation, that is another that is some adrishta of another lifetime, which is basically taking fruit now. That's how you had explained it once.
See, if you look at the prarabdha concept, prarabdha basically brings you what? Only the situation which you are facing. So that is adrishta phalam of previous life.
Yes.
Whatever you have today of situation, bad situation, good situation, you have not worked for that.
Yes.
That is adrishta phalam of previous life. So that is adrishta only, because for that life it was adrishta.
Yes.
That's right. And today if you're doing something, there is a possibility of that improving current status. That is drishta phalam.
Right.
But if you have Ishvara in your life and you are doing the Ishvara arpanam, then not only will you have drishta phalam, you will also have adrishta phalam. Adrishta phalam will show up in the next life.
Right. And similarly, right? So whatever we haven't worked towards at that point in time and just unexpectedly comes along our way,
Absolutely.
that drishta is the phalam of a previous adrishta.
Yeah. Veda,
No, Raviji, I'm still confused.
what is the confusion?
The kingdom question I was asking. So, are there?
See, yajna. Okay, now the yajna, Veda says that if you do that yajna, you will get a kingdom. That is very much drishta phalam. Remember that where the phalam is not mentioned in the Veda, that phalam is adrishta phalam. You have plenty of Vedic karma stipulated in the Veda where the phalam is given. But there are some Vedic karma where phalam is not given and yet it is given as nitya karma. Agnihotram, for example. Agnihotram, phalam is not given. It simply said nitya karma. So, nitya karma, Agnihotram, no karma can be without phalam. So since phalam is not stipulated in the Veda, that phalam is punya, adrishta.
Okay,
in this case, since the yajna says, the Rajasuya yajna you're talking about, right? It says that Rajasuya yajna means that you will get the kingdom. The phalam is very much stipulated there.
So then there are, so it is not, okay, fine. I think I get it now.
Okay, right. Okay, now that is the first group, Sakama Karma.
Raviji?
Yes, please.
I had a confusion between what Tanmayji asked about the Amutra part.
Yeah.
It is both the Swargam and the future life.
Swargam, when you say it's a future life only, no? Don't think Swarga is different from future life. Future life can be in Swarga, it can be in Naraka, it can be in Bhuloka also.
Okay. The Punyam, what I have generated, can manifest either in Swarga or in Bhuloka itself.
Or in Bhuloka itself. Or if you don't have Punyam, it can manifest as Naraka also.
So who decides?
Or a lower form in this Bhuloka only.
Who decides this, Raviji? Where I will be exhausting the Punyam?
The Lord decides. I'm afraid we can't appropriate that.
Right.
Right. So if you have enough Punyam, you might land up as Indra in the next birth. King Indra.
Right. Okay.
Right. So there is a second group of rituals that talks about that variety of ritual is meant to solve the various problems we face in this life. So it is called Parihara Karma or Prashchitta Karma. It's not unlike other karma. The first karma was meant for what? Acquiring something or removing something. But in the second group, the karma is not meant for acquiring or removing, but is meant for addressing some problem. So dukkha nivritti, it is meant for papa nivritti, to remove your papam out of earlier actions. That's praschita karma. If you have done something wrong, then that praschita karma is there to make up for that. Or if some situation is there which you are facing and which you feel that you are unable to address, then there is a parihara karma. It's a solution. Parihara means solution. The karma can, the punyam arising out of the karma can go towards removing that particular problem. So this is what is being said over here. That is the second group. Then there is a third group which you're all familiar with. Yeah.
Can I ask you a question? So parihar karma or prashchit karma, it can be just to remove an unfavorable condition as well.
Yes.
Or to or when I know I have done something wrong to counter.
Prashchita karma. Yeah.
Okay, both the situations.
Okay. Then you have a third group which is niyata karma, which we all know, compulsory duties. And we saw this in the third chapter of Gita, niyatam kuru karmatvam. So what is under that karma? Basically the 5 Panchamahayagnyas. So Deva Yagnya, Pitra Yagnya, Brahma Yagnya, Manusya Yagnya, and Bhuta Yagnya. There is another name for this, also called Vihita karma. So don't get confused because these names are used very often. Niyata karma is also called Nitya karma, is also called Vihita karma. Okay. What is the objective of this Vihita karma or Nitya karma? They have 4 objectives. One is they contribute to the general welfare of our family. Number 2 is they contribute to your spiritual growth, which is, which is different from what Kamya karma and Parihara karma do. Kamya karma does not contribute to your spiritual growth. Parihara karma also does not contribute to spiritual growth. This Nitya karma or Vihita karma, it contributes to sadhana chatushtaya, chitta shuddhi, vairagya. Okay, number 3 is if you perform Kamya karma or Parihara karma, that performance of Kamya or Parihara karma will become more efficient if you are regularly practicing your Nitya karma. So that is, Shastra specifically says, that person who does Nitya karma regularly, for him, his Parihara and Kamya will be more efficient. Okay, number 4. When Nitya karma is done, it creates a mind which is free from too much of disturbances. Because you are doing Nitya karma regularly, you are learning from all experiences. You're learning from your life, your marriage, your children. Every experience which you have becomes a learning experience, irrespective of whether the experience is bad or good. And if your mind has a low disturbance level, low FIR as we call it, Krishna said, Samatvam Yoga Uchyate. The mind is a mind which is not very reactive. Only such a mind can learn from all experiences. From bad and good experiences, a mind which is free of disturbances will learn. And only such a mind will understand the importance of spiritual life and the limitation of material accomplishments. Okay. In this Upanishad, there is a word used, Nirvedam, that is used for Vairagya, detachment. So all these 3 types of karma are defined in Karma Kanda. Okay, so now let us enter into the topic of Aparavidya. So Karma Kanda is being summarized in this section.
Sir, one question. Uday
Yeah.
here. Under the Nitya Karma, you mentioned some 4 or 5 yajnas.
Yeah, Panchamaha Yajna. All part of chapter 3.
How do they translate into our daily? Because I do a bit of japa and puja, but like there are too many things, Bhuta Yajna and all that. So what do they
Yajna
mean?
is not they call it Yajna for the Bhutas, not for the what we call. What is Bhuta over here?
Other beings. other living beings.
So let's look at Deva Yajna. Deva Yajna you do every day.
Yes.
What is that you do?
Do a
Puja.
Puja is Deva Yajna. Pitra Yajna is done basically on those days where you offer offerings to your forefathers.
yearly.
That's Pitra Yajna. Okay. Then Brahma Yajna you do at least every Saturday on Sundays. Any day when you study Veda is Brahma Yajna. Okay, Manushya Yajna is if you are giving chai to your Meda in the morning, that's Manushya Yajna.
Okay.
Any service to mankind is Manushya Yajna. It can be any help rendered. Now that leaves you with Bhuta Yajna. Bhuta Yajna is to service to other living beings, not being human beings, not being Manushya. So that is why in tradition you will find that people feed cows and they have birds and all this.
Yeah, understood. Thank you, sir.
So
Ravi,
yeah.
here you said the Pitru Yajna is the Shraddha Karma and all that.
Yeah.
How is this also part of Nitya Karma? It has to be Naimitika Karma, right?
Yeah, it's generally taken as Nitya Karma, but some people they keep their forefathers or at least their parents, if they are no longer alive, in the puja room itself. So that's why it's taken as Nitya Karma. Mandatory karma.
Okay, along with the Deva Puja,
Deva Puja, they do the parents thing. Like in my house in Kerala, in the puja room we had 3 generations of forefathers.
Right.
So that way.
Right.
So if you get up in the morning and you are serving others, it can be anything, like it need not be a major thing. A lot of people, like in my house in Kerala, we used to have these poor people who come in the morning for breakfast, and my granny would ensure that at least some 3 or 4 servings were there for them. The first 3 people got. That is Manushya Yajna.
Yeah, actually we are already doing all these, I think, Acharya. It's just that we are unaware of it, maybe helping others.
I mean, I'm sure you do it, but
I mean, at least some of it, like, helping others, like friends, like, if they're in problem, like COVID now, a lot of people.
There's a big thing of Manushya Yajna is like if you are, like today, I can see these doctors. It is nothing but Manushya Yajna, okay? Children who are just barely out of college, they're serving the COVID patients. It's fantastic what they're doing. No better Manushya Yajna I can think of. So that kind of work. But in a person's life, you can't wait for opportunities to arise. And therefore, what do? You make sure that little part of it is there every day in your life. You make it part of a routine. Okay.
I had a question about that Veda part, Acharya. The Sama Veda, you said we need to sing. I always had this question, like and then there is chandas also for every mantra to chant and all. So why again it is, I mean, like the same thing, same mantra.
Every mantra doesn't have a chanda, right? There are mantras which are in the form of chanda. There is a Brahmana mantra which are not there. So there are text mantras also. All mantras don't have chanda.
Okay, so you mean to say Samaveda, same mantras are sung? Like in
Samaveda, Rigveda mantras are sung actually. With to music, different from chanting.
Okay.
That's why they call Samagana.
So, so it is that some significance is there, right, for the mantra, the kind of way they chant and all. So why is it in a singing form again? Like, is there any reason? I understand the ritual part.
It is amenable to singing. Like not all mantras can be sung. And some of the mantras which are used for singing, they are called Samagana mantras.
Oh, okay. Only some of them. Like okay. Thank you.
Okay. Now, so where were we? We were about the summarization of Karmakanda, right? Now, before coming to this section, the second section, we'll briefly look at from the Bhashyam. We'll pick up from the Bhashyam, the introduction. So in the Bhashyam, Shankaracharya gives introductions to some sections, very considered particularly important. So here he says that in the first chapter, two major ideas were discussed. What are they? Aparavidya and Paravidya. And he says Aparavidya consists of what? He says Kartradi Sadhana Kriya Phalam. Aparavidya consists of certain factors of action, which is what? The Karta, the instrument, the action, and the fruit. So Karta, Sadhana, instrument or the tool, the Kriya, which is the action itself, and the Phala. And where do you find all this? He says all these are found in Karma Kanda only. So both, all types of karma, in fact. Kaika karma, that is actions with the body. Manasika karma, actions with the mind, and their phalam, and their fruits. They are all found where? They are found in the Karma Kanda. Okay. Now the prime component of Aparavidya is therefore what? Kriya, action. And to do actions, you must have all the karakas, all the factors of action. And when all the factors of action, all the karakas function properly, you get a kriya, you get the action. So what are these karakas? Anybody? What are karakas of action? Factors of action. What factors go into deciding whether an action will be put into effect or not?
Acharya, all the karakas which are explained in the 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita.
That is one, but you can take it from grammar, Sanskrit grammar also. In fact, the vibhaktis, the vibhaktis, they are essentially what? These factors of action only. So the first factor of action is what? Karta. Karta is which vibhakti?
The Prathama.
Prathama vibhakti. In Hindi, you will use the word ne, karta ne. Right? The name, it's the naming case, denotes the subject. Then the second vibhakti, dvitiya, is karma. Karma is the object. So we say in Hindi, karta ne karma ko. The karta. So this karma is not action, this karma is the object, remember. So whatever object it is, that is being worked upon by the karta. With what? With tritiya vibhakti, karana. So karana is what? The agent or the instrument. And in English, we use the words with or by. Right? First is the subject, prathama subject. Tritiya is object. Tritiya is with or by. Or by means of. Karana. Chaturthi is sampradana. Sampradana indicates what? In English, it's called the dative case. It indicates the direction in which the action is to be taking place. And we use, in English, we use the words to, for, or in Hindi, ko, ke liye. So there is, I don't know if you have studied this, karta ne, karma ko, karan se, sampradana ko. I don't know, some people may have studied, some people may have not, but that is in Hindi also. Then the Panchami is what we call the ablative case, apadana. It denotes from where the action has taken place, the locus of the action, the separation of the source. So in English, we say from or out of. And Hindi, you say, may, per se. Then Shashti is the genitive case, sambandha, denoting possession. So in English, we say of or belonging to. In Hindi, we say ka, ke, ki. Saptami is the locative case, the locus, the adhikarana. It denotes the place or the situation of a thing. And we use different pronouns in English. In, on, among, between. Hindi we say me, pe, para. And Sambodhana case, which is the address case. So, karta, karma, karana, sampradana, apadana, sambandha, adhikarana, sambodhanam. Result of all these actions put together is what? All these karakas put together is karma. And therefore, karma phalam. Okay. So Shankara says the result of all these factors of action, which are found where? They are all found in the Purva Veda only. The result is called karma phalam. And karma phalam is called samsara. Because the ultimate result of karma phalam is what? Samsara only. And samsara, he says, is anadi, not having an end caused by time. Samsara cannot be ended in time. And is full of dukkha, is full of sorrow and bondage. And he says that samsara flows like the stream of a river. And what is to be done with this samsara? Shankara says very simple. Give it up. Best way to handle samsara is what? Just give it up. How give it up? Completely in full measure. So that you do not come back. And who has to give it up? Sharira bihi. All the jivas have to give it up. And how will they give it up? Pratyekam. You have to independently give it up. You cannot give it up in a group, or you cannot appoint a proxy or an agent for getting moksha. And therefore, for your moksha, who has to work? Only you have to work. This is Shankara's take on Aparavidya. Then he comes to Paravidya. And he says Paravidya is nothing but samsara upashamaha. The going away of samsara. That is the indication of Paravidya. You have got Paravidya when samsara has gone away. And therefore he says, for Paravidya, the subject is that which has no beginning and no end, which is Brahman alone. And he uses some examples. He uses some words which are very, very important in Shastram. He says Ajara. Ajara means what?
No old
age. He says Amara.
No death.
No. Amara is, okay, you can take it as Viparinama Rahita. No changes. He uses two words. Amaro, Amrito. Amrito is Nasa Rahita, no death. And Abhaya, which is no fear. So you can take all these words, Ajaraha, Amaraha, Amritaha, Abhayaha, and you correlate it to your Shadvikara. This is his definition of Aparavidya. And he says, this Paravidya is finally what? You have to remain in your own nature. You have to be constantly aware of your real nature. And that doesn't mean repeating Aham Brahmasmi. It means knowing that you are Brahman. There's a big difference in mechanically repeating Aham Brahmasmi and in the knowledge that I am Brahman alone. Because I can be repeating Aham Brahmasmi all the time. But whenever there is a problem in front of me, am I able to recall that, yes, this problem is there, but it is not for me because I am Brahman. This is what Paravidya is. So firstly, he says here, firstly, the next chapter is begun for the purpose of presenting the subject matter of Aparavidya. And secondly, for understanding that Aparavidya is only for the purpose of generating dispassion, of generating Vairagyam. Right? And Vairagyam comes only from an understanding of the disadvantages of Dvaitam, of duality. And SPG says, he uses a word called pot to the disadvantages of Dvaitam, the disadvantages of not being in Advaitic frame of mind. He says is represented by a word called port, P-O-R-T. Possessions, obligations, responsibilities, and transactions. Obviously, for all grihasthas, it is not possible to completely reduce this to zero. You will have some possessions, you will have some obligations, you will have some responsibilities, you will have some transactions. But Vairagyam is essentially reduction of port. You have to reduce port to the minimum possible. And Vairagyam comes from what? From dosha darshanam, as Bhagavad Gita says, from seeing the defects in all the material things, in the examination of Dvaitam. And therefore, Mundaka itself says in the 12th mantra of the second section, it says that one should examine the karma phalam. We read it just now. Pariksha lokan karma chitan ityadina. One should examine the karma phalam and know that every karma phalam has got some sort of defect. So even the body has some doshas. And he adds, body has what kind of doshas? Janmam is there, Maranam is there, Jara is there, all these things are there. So Apara is the preparatory discipline. And therefore it should be first talked about. Also, there's another reason why Apara Vidya should be first talked about. Apara Vidya cannot give moksha. Therefore, we should know that it cannot give moksha. And hence, Apara Vidya needs to be given up. Hence, we should talk about it first. First, therefore, the next section will introduce Apara Vidya. And Apara Vidya, dosha darshanam is required. If you are able to see all the defects in material things, then only Vairagyam will come. And therefore, Shankara says that without introducing Apara Vidya, an examination of Paravidya is not possible at all. And therefore, in the first mantra of the next section, Aparavidya is talked about. Okay. Long introduction. Anything? Shankara's introductions are always a bit technical, but when you remember the introduction and then when you're going into the verses, you will see how beautifully he has summarized the entire second section in those few lines. Okay. No questions? Okay. We still have a few minutes. I don't want to waste them. So let us look at the first mantra of the second section. It says, Tad etat satyam mantreshu karmani kavayaha yanya pashyan tani tretayam bahuda santatani tan yacharatha niyatam satyakamaha eshavav panthaha sukrutasya loke. So, tad etat satyam. This is the truth. What is the truth? Mantreshu karmani kavayaho. Those kavi is the seers, the ones who have seen the truth. Okay, that also we saw in Bhagavad Gita. So the jnanis. The jnanis have seen karmani, certain action, certain karma, Vedic karma in the mantras. Basically saying that mantras, the mantras in the Puraveda, they outline karmas. Yani, apashyan. That apashyan saw, who saw? Those jnanis, those kavis, they saw the karma which are mentioned in those mantras. Tani tretayam bahuda santatan. So tani means those, tretayam means the three Vedas, bahuda means in some quantity, many, santatani continued, tani acharataha, practice those karmas. So essentially, it's an advice to us that you practice all those Vedic karmas which were seen by the kavis, the seers, in all Vedic mantras. Putting it in simple language, just practice all the karmas which are prescribed in the Vedas. And when should you practice? Niyatam, always. And satyakamaha, with a desire for karma phalam. And he says, Eshavaha pantaha sukrutasya loke. This is the way to attaining the fruits of karma, which is sukrutasya loke. The lokas which are meant for people who are doing good karma. Okay, so that's a very brief thing. Let's take word by word. Tadetat satyam. What has been stated here is true. First word is tadetat satyam. What has been stated here is true. Tat. You can break that up to two words. Tat plus etat. So tat is that which is going to be said, which means it is not known to the student. Etat means this. And here etat has to be taken as which is in the mind of the acharya. So this etat is going to be converted to tat. Means acharya is going to say something. He is going to convert what is in the ideas in his mind into words, which is going to be heard by the student. Tadetat satyam. Okay. And tat here refers to that which is going to be said. What is going to be said? All the reference is satyam. Satyam here, normally you will say, people will say it is the truth. Okay. But satyam here has to be taken as Vedic rituals consisting of all the activities. And therefore, Tadeta Satyam means those karmas mentioned in the Vedas, which are known to the Acharya, that is going to be conveyed to the student. Satyam here is not truth. It is Vedic rituals. All the complete gamut of activities, which is invoking the Devata, asking them to sit, giving offerings, all these things. And all these karmas, they are grouped in three different categories. Okay. And I said that three Vedas are normally used, Rig, Yajur, and Samaveda. So one of these sets of rituals is presented in Rig Veda. Yajur Veda presents a completely different set. And a third set is present in the Samaveda mantras. Remember that though they are presented in all three Vedas, the ritual, it incorporates all three of them. There are not three different groups of rituals. There are three different groups of karmas performed by three different types of priests. But they are performed in the same ritual. That is important to remember. And therefore, in one ritual, you will find that the Rigveda priest is there, Yajurveda priest is also there, Samaveda priest is also there. Okay, so there are three sets of priests in these rituals. The Rigveda priest is got a particular name, Hota. Hota. The Yajurveda priest is got a particular name, Advaryu. The Samaveda priest is got another name, Udgataha. The karma done by the Hota, the Rigveda priest, is called Hautram. The karmas done by the Yajurveda priest, Advaryu, is called Advaryam. The karma done by Udgata, Samaveda priest, is called Audagatra. What about the other priest? What Veda is left over? Atharvana Veda is left. Now, Atharvana Veda does not contain any of the rites used in the rituals, and therefore the rites are done by only the above three priests. That is Rigveda, Yajurveda, Samaveda priest, Hota, Advaryu, and Udgataha. The Atharvada priest is called Brahma. And if you have heard any of the rituals, you will keep on hearing Brahma, Brahma, Brahma. So that Brahma is not invoking Brahman. This Atharvada priest, his role in the Veda, in the ritual, is that he has to be a Chaturvedi. He has to be one who knows all the four Vedas. And therefore, he is a supervisor. And therefore, whenever any of the other priests are performing, you will hear them asking for permission to go ahead from the Brahman. That is why you will keep hearing Brahman, 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 Brahman. This is all asking for permission from Atharvana priests only. Atharvana priest is a person who is Chaturvedi, and therefore he is supposed to know everything. Of course, many rituals today, if you have gone to these formal rituals, you will find that there are only the 3 sets of priests. That is the Rig, Yajur, and Sama. The Atharvana priest place is kept empty. That is not because the ritual doesn't have a place for the Brahma, but the point is that you don't find Chaturvedis very easily in today's world. And therefore the place is kept free. There is no occupant for the seat. So with this, I'll stop here in case you have any questions.
Acharya, no question, just an observation that the Mundaka Upanishad is an Atharva Veda Upanishad.
Yes, Atharva Veda Upanishad, yes. So there you'll find that rituals, the mantras for the rituals won't be here. You will have descriptions, but the actual mantras itself will not be there. In any case, this is Upanishad. For the actual mantras, you will have to look where?
In the Samhitas and the Brahmans?
The Samhitas and the... Okay. Guys, all good?
Okay.
Okay. So I know it was a bit, extensive today, but I'm afraid that is how the way it is going to be also.
Oh, Acharya, can I ask you something?
Yeah.
How important is it to remember all these names, like, the knower of the Samaveda, knower of all these technical words you used, to remember them all?
If you tell somebody that you're a student of the Upanishad, and he says, अच्छा तो मुझे बताइए कि होता कौन होता है, what would you say?
Okay, so I must know them. That's it.
Best to know them.
Or you can say that मैं बता सकती हूँ ब्राह्मण कौन होता है, पर होता नहीं पता.
Brahman is everything you say. Sarvam Brahman. That is the best answer. Anything you say is Brahman. But it's better that you know, so that at least, right now it's not there, but you will find some of the Upanishads, you will find they talk about the Hautram, and they talk about the Advaryam, and they talk about the Audgatram. Not very important, but better to at least have heard the name before.
And Acharya, a repetition really helps, like what you started off today's session with, that, every day if you make it a part of your Parayanam, it really makes it familiar, and what are tongue twisters and words which are alien to us.
I would strongly recommend that you do the Parayanam every day for at least 3 or 4 months, so that you are completely familiar with the whole Upanishad by the time you finish.
Yeah, and in fact, it doesn't even take 3 or 4 months, Acharya, very honestly. If you take out those 15 minutes every day, it doesn't take that long.
Absolutely. So I used to do it very regularly. While I was doing the thing, I should do it regularly. I spend 1 hour every day for chanting. That is the only way it will strike a chord in you. When you hear the mantra somewhere, it should trigger your memory. Yeah, I know this. So even when you go to the ashram and you hear those, pujaris chanting, if you pay attention, you'll be able to hear some of the mantras there. And then recall, I've heard this before, I know this. Okay, so thank you so much. With this, I'll stop. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya, Acharya. Thank you so much.
Om Shivaya, thank you.
So we haven't begun the verse. We will do it in the next class.
Thank you.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Thank you.